where's the rest? Okay, just a couple of housekeeping duties. The restrooms are located over in the church, over to the left, my right. And with that being said, as far as the online audience, we would like for everyone to hold their questions to the end, unless they're just one that burning desire. You got to have it in. If it's one of those, and while someone's presenting it, while the individual is presenting, we will ask you to hold it to the end, and Dr. King will run a question and answer session. At this time, time now is 5 after. We're officially about to begin. Again, my name is Albert Jones, the Arkansas Land Community Development Corporation. I'd like to thank the audience we have here. This is one of our second to fifth hybrid meeting, to whereas we have a virtual crowd. I know last time we checked, we had at least 15 people online. And we come up with a way to whereas they can see us online, and then the audience here, we have you guys separated. Ms. Eccles, my colleague from the host here, said Albert's got the chairs a little close, so we moved them. Again, we would just like to thank everyone for coming. The next person we're gonna, he's downloading the program online. The program and the agenda will be in the chat box. We sent an agenda out yesterday, but we will put the agenda in the chat box. Next, we have a welcome by and a program overview of Knowledge Quest and the facility itself by the founder. And he also, as he comes up, he's Reverend Marlon Foster. We're going to ask him to give us a word of prayer and send us in the right direction and bless this gathering. I believe the word talks about with two or more together with the same spirit, same ideas. Pastor Foster.
If you speak in there, cause where they can go online. First.
Yeah.
You know what's first.
All right, let's start with the invocation.
You know what's first.
Let us bow our heads. Lord God, we just thank you for this time of sharing. Lord God, we thank you for all of us that have gathered here through virtual experience and in person. We thank you for the efforts of our hands. We give credit and glory to you for all of the production in agriculture and all of the understandings that we will get here on today. We just ask that all we do, we say, we think, we feel be all done in your spirit. We pause to honor any faith traditions and all faith traditions that might be represented here on today. And now I seal this prayer in Christ's name. Thank God and amen. Thank you all for being here today. Just briefly, Greenleaf Learning Farm, we're so grateful to Dr. King, so grateful to the Arkansas Land and Community Development, CDC, and to that organization for inviting us in for all the learning and even allowing us to host and to learn from this experience here on today. But Knowledge Quest is the parent organization. Greenleaf Learning Farm is one of 3 major programs that we have. We actually have 3 sites on Walker Avenue, this major thoroughfare. But Greenleaf, we started our first community garden back in 1999 in what was then the Fowler Homes Public Housing Development. That teacher that was the force behind that still works here. She's in the classroom now. But in 2010, we decided when we moved from the public housing that was demolished to this spot of ground, it started with a 25 by 100 foot spot where we just wanted to continue growing food. And that led to a little expansion, a little more expansion. And what we have from 2010 now is, 30 formerly vacant blighted lots, 4 buildings that have now been repurposed, all to the only, to develop the only USDA certified organic operation we're aware of in our Memphis area. So we're excited about that. We serve students from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. That's a college dormitory behind you. But we're all about trying to let kids be like you when they grow up, that we want to be a part of the next generation of agriculture and to build community, supply healthy food all while we're doing it. So just briefly, as you look around, that's our pack house there with a commercial green spinner, 3-compartment sink, walk-in cooler. On the other side of the sanctuary is a house where our local Tennessee Department of Agriculture has started the support toward that becoming a career and technical education site for our culinary academy we've had since 2013 and our farm academy, all high school students. Behind the stop sign up there, it's an orchard. Again, the college dormitory there has 10 students. They can give 15 hours of service a week on our farm and our other programs to have free housing. But the lot across from the corner store, where you see that kind of ancient tree line, that kind of urban forest area, if you will, it's also a part of this footprint, as well as the corner store, and the farm expands 2 hours south with more greenhouses and more outdoor classrooms and chickens and things of that nature. So that's kind of the footprint. That's our work. In closing, it's about 3 areas for us. How can we be a part of ag education? How can we be a part of community and economic development through agriculture? And how can we be a part of healthy food access and security in one of our cities and one of our nation's most distinct food deserts? So thank you again for coming and for being here. We're excited to be a part of this sharing on today. Don't put me in an awesome position of having to introduce Dr. King. That's too big for me.
Oh, okay.
You come, make sure you do that right.
He said, "Want to make sure that he signed what I take home every couple of weeks." So I'm gonna try to get this right. Our boss and co-founder, our organization, Arkansas Community Development Corporation, was founded on the campus of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, is what it's called now. But at that time, it was called Arkansas A&M, correct, Dr. King? And that's where we were founded 40 years ago. The site that we're on, we've been doing farm meetings over 100 years. It was discovered by Floyd Brown, one of Booker T. Washington's students, and he was selling his books. And that same train rail that he got off and he fell in love with $0 and 200, got off the train with $0 and amassed 600 acres of land and built a school. And he had community outreach as far as farm meetings, letting individuals know about that. And not only the Black community, but everybody in the region itself, he had farm outreach meetings. I've been with the organization for 11 years, going on 11 years, and it's been a distinct pleasure. I come from a farm background, but it's been a pleasure learning the technical aspects of it. And we also like to thank Marlon Foster again. One of the things that as far as bringing urban agriculture, and this has a twofold meaning. As I was telling the gentleman from the Department of Agriculture in Tennessee, everybody's looking at these caps, they got them on. We have growers. It can benefit the growers in Arkansas as far as Marlon letting them know what he needs. And we literally know how to grow things in Arkansas and in Mississippi and in Tennessee. So the project encompasses the whole area. With that being said, and he has an understanding, and he's a visionary. Marlon visited our facility. We sit on over 300 acres, and we've been doing it for 41 years. With that being said, our founder and president and chief executive officer, Dr. Calvin King, Sr.
Thank you, Albert. Let me begin by saying this one, expressing my appreciation to Reverend Foster for hosting us here. And as USDA the whole purpose of our project and our being here and a part of both Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas is expanding partnership opportunities for community-based organization, private and public sector with USDA, Nrcs, and what we call one USDA. And I say one USDA because of this. Now, I am a firm believer. If you breathe and you got up this morning and you're on your way, that your life before the day is out has in some way been touched by USDA. because USDA is so much a part of our lives on a day-to-day basis, from the food we eat to the air we breathe, particularly more so now as you talk about the environmental issues and what's occurring, and the engagement and involvement of USDA conservation, NRCS, on the environmental issue practices and how those practices take place and how people participate and engage in those practices and how it affects our environment. So in so many ways, USDA touch our lives. Now, it doesn't just touch our lives because of what they do and what they have done in the past, and they continue to do. With our HBCUs, historical Black colleges and universities, then USDA is there, NRCS is there in manners by which it allows them to do outreach and other work in our local community. So it may be the institution itself, it may be an HBCU, it may not be an HBCU, but USDA is a part of that community. It is a part of that institutional base. It is a part of providing those resources that allow them to provide certain support and assistance to the public at large. So that's why I say one USDA, because in some way, USDA will have or is having an effect on all of us in our day-to-day lives. So this overall agenda for today, we'll be talking about USDA, the various programs, operations, what they are engaged in, particularly natural resource and conservation services, which make this possible, and our being here. And also, I'm really, really hopeful that in the future, as we move forward and as we expand our partnership base and the partnerships such as with Knowledge Quest here, that Reverend Foster would understand the importance of those partnerships and that they will benefit from some of the opportunities that exist. So not only are we engaged and we're involved with one USDA, are we engaged and we're involved with NRCS, we also have the great opportunity, particularly from an urban perspective. You have one of the greatest opportunities ever before now in urban setting. As Reverend Foster and myself were having discussions in a meeting prior to this, us getting started here, this whole the integrated approach from a green community perspective involving urban agriculture and things that he's doing here right now, that is a really centerpiece model of what can be both expanded and a model for others to really replicate in other areas, other part of be it Shelby County and even in other states. So again, really think Knowledge Quest for the opportunity for us being here today. This overall agenda.
I forgot Shelton Hot Tower. I forgot. Shelton Hot Tower.
Mr. Shelton Hot, we spoke earlier.
State Conservation.
State Conservation Office is also here, Mr. Shelton Hightower. Again, we appreciate your support, allowing us to have this opportunity to do what we do and to be here. And I'm really, really hopeful that we'll be able, Mr. Foster or Reverend Foster, to connect these dots. Again, that's part of what we're supposed to be doing, why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing in this partnership that we have with NRCS in this program and this program service delivery and expanding that program service delivery. And again, agriculture and urban agriculture being one of those areas. Again, one USDA is what the agenda is going to be focused on. The other thing I want to mention is, as we talk about conservation and technology, we also talked about that today, Reverend Foster and myself, is the use of drone and other areas of technology in urban agriculture. So all of that becomes a very, very key part of the overall curriculum when you start to talk about agriculture today, technology in agriculture. Drone is only one aspect of that, and there are numerous types of models that can be employed that has to do with soil and water management practices from the conservation perspective. And in RCS, they have their engineers and others in the university. They're experts in that area. Reverend Foster, I I don't have that knowledge base, but I do know that the agencies themselves, they have that knowledge base. And that's why it's so important that communities such as where you are here and where USDA and one USDA has continued to reach out to more as we talk about the underserved and underserved community. I think you gave reference to the fact that this area in itself, where we are now, these grounds, this community is one of the number one communities in the nation as far as the food desert itself is concerned. Now, when you have such a community that exists as an underserved community, it justifies even more so for the expansion of the partnership and the real promotion and engagement of urban agriculture in the community, in the area, be it with food hubs, and I know ag marketing services will talk probably about that. If we're talking about food hubs, expansion and creation of food hubs, and increasing the overall volume of the numbers of urban farms that exist in the local area here. But technology, we engage in working with drones as a part of agriculture now in dealing with pest management, herbicides, not pesticides and herbicide, but particularly on the pesticide area, how you use drones as a part of a process in reducing the use of pesticides and dealing with production management practices with horticultural crops. Again, it's back to the food supply aspect of it and local communities and the consumers on that side. So technology, drone practices, and I know the extension in the State Department of Agriculture, I'm sure you all, we have the State Department of Agriculture that's also here with us now, that you all are also engaging, and you all have, I'm sure, some practices and where you're working with farmers and how they may be employing and doing using drones as a part of their agricultural production practices, everything from scouting fields to other areas. We have used them also in dealing with ranching and livestock. And we have employed and dealt with drones in monitoring livestock operations, monitoring our fence, our permanent fence spaces with the drones, looking for newborn calves versus walking the whole, they say about 300 acres versus walking the whole areas that we actually, with our silver pasture areas, that we use the drones to actually scout and to go through those areas to locate and make sure we know exactly where newborn calves may be located, or after a storm where we know we may have damaged permanent fencing and trees are down. So drones are very much so and becoming more prevalent now in ranching production practices as well as production agriculture in general. I think there will be a lot more in the future. I said that to say this. Understanding that, and for this reason, it is really important that we engage our youth and they understand how much technology is involved in agriculture, particularly in production agriculture. And they understand how much science is involved in agriculture and dealing with farming operations. They understand how much finance is involved in agriculture from a business perspective. So again, one USDA, this Community Economic Development Summit will be dealing with one USDA with the various components and the agencies that make up USDA itself and offer all of the resource opportunities that we're hopeful we'll be able to capitalize more on in this local area. So I'm going to stop at this point now, and Albert, I think the next on the agenda, we have Mr.
Fred
Walker. And Mr. Walker, who is the District Conservation. Mr. Walker.
How's everybody today? Good, good. Sorry, I stormed in here a few minutes late, but we're gonna get it all worked out.
While he's getting his stuff together, I apologize for it, but Mr. Hightower, would you come say a word for it? I know Ms. Burks and I had talked about it and we weren't for sure. If you could just come give us a word while while he's not your colleague, while your worker, one of your individuals. Co-work. Hey, come on out here and just give the audience. We have about 25 people online. Okay, we got 25 people online, and hello again. This is not Fred Walker. This is Albert Jones. I just wanted to acknowledge the state conservationist who had a big part in making this all possible. He said he had to say okay from the start. If he wouldn't have said okay, we wouldn't be here. And he graced us with his presence. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the state Resource Conservation Services, Mr. Shelton Hightower.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very thankful for Mr. Marlon Foster for hosting this event and working with Dr. King. And I think urban is going to be critical for us. And I think when we look at urban agriculture, and as we look at trying to engage our youth, and I'm very excited to see how we have a dormitory set up. I know I was here maybe a year or two back, and things were just getting started there, so I'm very excited about that. Also, with USDA, we are focusing on our competitive funding agreements as we look at urban agriculture. Also, the outreach and education, how we definitely engage our youth as far as production agriculture. So we had our competitive process.
We just finished that up, and we're looking at doing it actually in 2022 in the spring to look at, when we look at urban agriculture, we're looking at community gardens, we're looking at pollinator habitat, we're looking at high tunnels, but also we have, a funding pool within USDA as we're focusing on just high tunnel initiatives. And so I think it's very important that we're going to put emphasis on urban agriculture in Tennessee. We're going to put an emphasis on outreach. We're looking at bringing on an outreach coordinator to be more connected to locally led, because that's where it's at. Locally led conservationists that we want to work with Fred Walker, work with the local conservation districts, work with the folks that are on the ground to help us improve our conservation programs. And that's why we have our state technical committee meeting. That's why we have our competitive funding agreements. And we know we can't get this work, Dr. King, done all by ourselves. So we need the partnerships. Partnerships is all about relationships. And that's why we're here today. We want to develop that relationship. We want to develop opportunities to increase urban agriculture within Tennessee. So with that, thank you so much for letting me say a few words. But one thing I tell you what, we talk about Farm Bill conservation programs, and we had a very great year this year as far as our programs, far as about close to $38 million in our environmental quality incentive programs, and another $10 million in our conservation stewardship program. So we're very excited about the funding that we bring to our producers within Tennessee. Then also we paid out about $30 million in conservation payments to our producers. And some of that includes to our urban ag folks as well. So with that being said, thank you so much. It's great to see you all, and it's great to be here, and look forward to the continued partnership, Dr. King.
I'm going with that. I'm going with it. All right, I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties here, but I'm gonna make it work. Like I said,
Fred, we need to speak in the mic. There you go.
glad to be here. And as Dr. King said, he mentioned outreach and Nrcs quite a bit in his talk. And this is what we call outreach. We're reaching out to the public and to the communities to try to make people aware of NRCS and our programs and what we offer and can offer to. We have, to start out, Hugh Hammond Bennett. He was our first chief. He was our father of conservation. He saw a need back in the mid-30s to address soil erosion that was occurring across the country. And he developed the Soil and Erosion Service and the Soil Conservation Districts. And in 1994, we reorganized from the Soil Conservation Service to the Natural Resources Conservation Service because we saw a need to address more resources than just soil. So we now address soil, water, air, plants, animals, energy, and some others. The Farm Bill. Our work is made possible by the Farm Bill and delivered through a host of programs, such as CTA, Conservation Technical Assistance, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, Conservation Stewardship Program, and our Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. Those are some cost share programs, all except the Conservation Technical Assistance that we provide through NRCS. We also have competitive grants. They will support the development of innovative production, urban agriculture, and educational outreach projects in 3 categories. Those 3 categories are conservation agreements, urban conservation, and collaborative outreach. Starting with conservation agreements. The purpose is to improve and increase soil health, water quality, and the environmental and economic performance of working agricultural lands. It also plans to address air quality concerns and carbon sequestration needs. Develops quality conservation plans for effective grazing land practices and develop, plan, and implement effective forestry practices and standards. In 2021, our total funding for this element of the cooperative agreements was $400,000 here in Tennessee. It awarded 10 contracts, and the project durations range from 1 to 5 years. The next was urban conservation. This project is an effort to challenge local conservation districts, nonprofit organizations, such as Knowledge Quest here, non-governmental agencies or organizations, institutions of higher learning, and other community partners to establish pollinator habitats, establish gardens for food production, and establish seasonal high tunnels to extend the growing season of fruits and vegetables. That's a prime example of a high tunnel that's right behind us here. In this program, in 2021 here in Tennessee, it awarded $150,000. 20 contracts were awarded, and those the duration on those contracts was 1 to 3 years. Collaborative outreach. The purpose is to leverage resources with Tennessee's farmers, partners to provide farm bill outreach and increase the delivery of conservation assistance to historically underserved communities. We're standing right in the middle of one right here through a combination of program outreach and educational activities. Collaborative outreach awarded $100,000 in 2021, 6 contracts, and the duration was 1 to 3 year contracts. Competitive funding grants, how to apply, you can apply through www.grants.com. Funds will be announced this spring, date to be determined. But we are planning to fund some of those grants in our FY22. What does NRCS do? NRCS provides one-on-one personalized advice where we go out, work with the producers, farmers, ranchers, and we develop conservation plans. We help make investments in their operations and local communities. NRCS generates, manages, and shares the data, technology, and standards to help make informed decisions. Where are we planning ahead in the future for NRCS? We want to return to our conservation planning roots. Renewed involvement and emphasis in partnerships, and we want to focus on targeted conservation. Conservation technical assistance. We provide a broad array of assistance, including conservation planning prior to financial assistance. So many times we go out to farms and people already have on their minds they want cost share assistance or financial assistance. But that's not the way we need to be doing business. We need to have a plan in place to work with your local office, to go out, develop these plans, and then we seek funding to address those resource concerns. We assist individuals with regulatory requirements. There are so many practices that we do that we have to deal with TDEC, Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the Corps of Engineers, TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority. But you have to have practices if you're disturbing waters of the state or waters of the nation. So we can be there to assist and help develop those applications and help get them submitted so we can get the permits in place. And also assistance in developing and implementing conservation plans, as I said earlier. It all begins with the plan, a conservation plan. And what is a conservation plan? Conservation plan is a written record of a landowner's management decisions and the conservation practices and systems they plan to use, develop, and maintain on their farm. Conservation planning includes 9 steps to help landowners achieve the goals of protecting the environment and their natural resources. What are those 9 steps? We look at those in three phases. Phase 1 is collection and analysis. We identify problems. We determine objectives. We inventory resources. And then we analyze resource data. Second phase is decision support. That's where we formulate alternatives. We evaluate alternatives. And then we make decisions. At number 7 there, that's step number 7. That's where we actually start to look at maybe some financial assistance or some cost share assistance once we start making decisions on what we're going to do on the property. And then phase 3, application and evaluation. We implement the plan, and step 9, finalize, evaluate the plan. After everything's completed and done, we go back and evaluate it, make sure what we did is actually working. And we did Hugh, Hammond, Bennett some justice. I've got some pictures here of stream bank stabilizations, some practices that we do. We've got our practices address, as I said, resource concerns. And on this, we got erosion that's occurring, sloughing off a stream bank. We can put in practices such as riprap and undertow abutments to stop the erosion from sloughing off. We also, stream crossings. If you got livestock going down into a stream to cross over to another field, we can fence that stream off, utilizing NRCS funding, and give them a hard surface to go down. They can also use that to drink water out of and cross to the other side, and you can implement it into your rotational grazing plan. Heavy use areas. So many times we go out to farms, cattle farms, livestock farms, and we see muddy areas where the livestock are kind of congregated, and if it rains, the hoof traffic just keeps it muddy, like feeding troughs, watering troughs. We can go in and put a heavy use area to alleviate that. Also, watering facilities. We can use watering facilities to rotate cattle, put in cross fencing to manage pastures, and put in a livestock watering facility to provide water. Once we fence, we may fence a pond off, but we need to provide an alternative watering system. We may want to split this pasture. At that point, if there's water already in this pasture and we split it, then we fence them from that area. So we have to put in an alternative watering facility. We also do native warm season grass establishment for wildlife habitat. And we manage those prescribed, those native warm season grasses by burning through a prescribed fire. And we start in the middle of the field to allow the wildlife to escape, so we don't get them burned up in the managing process. Pollinator planting. A lot of people are into bees. Well, we need to provide those bees some pollinators to give them a source for food so they can keep producing that honey and pollinating our plants and our vegetables and our fruits. And that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Thanks a lot. And I will just list our website is www.tn.nrcs.usda.gov.
I'd like to thank Mr. Fred Walker. He's our district conservationist with USDA NRCS. Next, we have under the work session one, we have Dr. Leslie Glover, and he's with USDA Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. Glover, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am. Can you all hear me?
Okay, yes, we have you.
Beautiful. Greetings, everyone. My name is Leslie Glover II. I am with the Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production, and I'm going to try to share my screen with you all. We're having a little bit of bad weather coming through this Washington, D.C. area, so I'm hoping that I can remain connected and we can get through this presentation. I didn't realize that when we said one USDA, that also meant that we would come with one presentation. Mr. King, I think you've been reading off my script. The same thing with Mr. Walker. But it's a pleasure to be here, an honor to be able to come and talk with the group. My dad, actually, some of you may know the name, but my dad, Dr. Leslie Glover, worked for many years at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So I'm carrying on some of the work that he started in the field of agriculture. And so just happy to be here. So because of some of the discussion that has already been had, I think I'm gonna steer off of my prepared remarks just a little bit to give you a little different flavor. It's really good to hear that NRCS is continue to be engaged. They're at the local level there in Tennessee. And what I'm going to do is try to paint a little bit broader picture for you all and help you to understand that, of course, the current Biden administration, as well as Secretary Vilsack, are really keenly tied into these whole concepts of things like environmental justice, racial equity, as well as climate smart agriculture and urban agriculture. And a lot of these different things have cross-cutting effects for all of the citizens of America, but in particular for some of our urban producers. And so as I go into my presentation, what does urban agriculture look like? Well, I think you all know that it just depends on where you are, and it depends on the environment in which the urban agriculture is being produced. And so with the Office of Urban Agriculture, I want to make sure that I get across to you today that it's really a USDA effort. Each individual agency has things that we think that you all can plug into. There's too many to go over all of them. There's at least 81 different programs that we have identified that we think will have some relevance to urban agricultural production. And so as Dr. King, I'll call you Dr. King, intimated a little bit earlier, the environment is really the one place where all of humanity has a mutual interest. It is the one thing that we share in common. Lady Bird Johnson once said, it's not only a mirror of ourselves, but it's also a focusing lens on what we can become. If you think about the issues that we're facing as a nation with food insecurity and climate issues, we see that, you know, what we've been doing on the earth is really a reflection of who we are. But then again, it also can become a focusing lens on how we can solve problems and what we can become moving forward. So with that, I'll just touch on this really briefly. It's already been covered, but in a lot of ways, USDA, of course, touches every American every day. Mr. King, I said you were reading off my script, but you're right. You're exactly right. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but that's why Lincoln called us the People's Department. And we're a big department. You know, USDA has over 100,000 employees. We're looking at 29 agencies and offices within the department, over 4,500 locations across the country. So we're everywhere and we're touching people's lives everywhere. We have over $1 billion budget annually, and that includes mandatory and discretionary programs. The office that I'm a part of in particular got its start in the 2018 Farm Bill, and we only actually have 2 programs that we administer. We have a community compost and food waste reduction agreement project that just closed here in July. And we also have a urban ag and innovative production grant pilot that we administer as well. So both of those programs together are about a $6 million program. But our biggest, the thing that we do primarily in our office is really to make these connections, create these relationships, and facilitate information with folks just like you all to understand the length and the breadth and the height of a lot of the programs that USDA can offer. Again, we're still one USDA, so we're looking at a whole food systems approach, which again, I was really touched by the opening remarks in how, you know, it's not just one area that we're talking about when we're looking at issues of food access, food insecurity. Really, we're looking at the whole food system approach, and we're needing to address people first. You know, that's what really this is all about. A lot of folks will tell you that urban agriculture really doesn't have potential to keep pace with commercial production, and I think in a lot of ways that's right. But really, what urban agriculture is going to be about is really about people first, and making sure that people who are in some instances in the greatest need are also part of the solution to their own problem. We need to look at things like food access, but also we need to think about issues like food loss and waste, and how globally 50% of the food that is grown never gets into people's stomach. I mean, that's a huge problem. And so finding ways to eliminate a lot of those wastes and doing things like composting and salvaging food that just might not be pretty, but still is healthy and nutritious. So the Secretary and of course, the administration is looking heavily into that aspect of agriculture. Climate smart ag is just continuing to grow and grow. And so as we think about urban agriculture, we want to put it into this context and into this frame. We're talking about people, we're talking about access, food loss waste, we're talking about climate smart ag. So they all tie together. A little bit earlier, Mr. Walker talked about types of assistance. And so I want to make sure I hit this, because sometimes we recognize that with newer customers or producers to USDA, they may not be familiar with a lot of the lingo that we sometimes use. And so I want to make sure that I bring this point home for you all. And that is, there's usually 2 different types of programs that the USDA offers. One major type is direct assistance directly to producers. And then one of the other ways that we do assistance is through collaborations and through partnerships. Now, when it comes to technical assistance, basically what that refers to are the free services that the USDA offers to clients and to operations. And it can come in the form of things like written information. It can come in the form of person-to-person interactions like listening sessions and lectures. It can come in the form of web-based tools, webinars, and trainings. And it can also come in the form of written information like requests for information, research trials. USDA has a number of PhD researchers that do tremendous research in the area of urban and innovative production. And those publications are free for anyone to use. And then you have financial assistance, and these also come in different forms. A lot of times we get questions about, people will call in and say, well, I'm looking for a grant, but they may not actually really understand what the grant is. So the financial assistance portion or the money aspect comes in different forms. You can have grants, and primarily those are financial assistance that don't have to be repaid and they don't require a cost share with them. But then you can also have agreements, which can be cooperative and contribution agreements. And primarily those type of agreements may require a cost share from the participant. And those types of things can come in the form of in-kind services. USDA also has a number of loan and loan guarantee programs, as well as insurance and disaster relief programs. And all of these different financial assistance programs can offer, that financial assistance to producers as well as entities. So again, I'll kind of run through this really quickly, but again, when we think about this whole food system approach and including urban and innovative agriculture, we can kind of break it up into different pieces of the process. So you can start with planning and design. You can have conservation and land acquisition. Once you acquire the land and start to produce food, then you have to process it and you have to, aggregate it together and distribute it and then get it to markets and consumers. And then what undergirds it all is this whole concept of the research, education, technical assistance, and outreach component that really kind of undergirds this whole process. And so all along this whole food process, USDA has programs that we think can really benefit producers and entities like yourself. So this is a really nice depiction, which comes from the AMS. And so I won't go through it. I'm not going to steal Yvette's thunder. She's going to come on and probably go a little bit into further depth with these. So as I said, I'm going to amend my comments a little bit so I won't step on her toes. But USDA has a number of programs at every step of the way. And what I want to show you is that, we've worked with producers to help them along this path. And this is a producer in New York, for instance. We were able to, he came into our office with a vision to, grow tomatoes for his local community. And we were able to connect him and get him a land easement on a portion of his land, as well as enroll him in the EQIP program, where he ended up getting a high tunnel close to New York City and, all these other practices. And he produced tomatoes. And because of that, we were able to also hand him off then to the Farm Service Agency, where he was able to get an organic certification. And now that opens him up to other potential programs, for instance, the value-added producer grants, which the rural development has. And so now he can apply for that particular grant where he can take his tomatoes and convert it into tomato sauce or tomato paste. And then he can market that potentially down the road through programs like the Regional Food Systems Partnership Grant. Or even the Farm to School grant program. So there's a number of different handoffs and things that can happen throughout USDA, and it's really going to be dependent upon the type of operation and the producer and their vision for what they want to achieve. And so as I talked to Albert, I noticed that there were a number of different things that this particular group or objectives that you all wanted to meet. So I'll just kind of push through these. I was going to try to go through each one individually, but I don't think we're going to have time for it. I just want to say again that, this is just the start of a relationship. We know we can't cover it all today. So I'll have to maybe come back another time with this group, or individually, we'll have to do connections. I'll put my information in the chat box so that you all can circle back with me. But in terms of enhancing your urban and micro farming, lot of different programs. As I say, there's about 81 to 100 different ones. So I just want to highlight a few of them just to kind of show you what some of the potential is. For instance, in the planning and designing area, we have competitive grants that come out of our office that help people to plan their operation and figure out how they're going to make things work. We have things like the Urban Agriculture Toolkit, which is kind of a technical assistance piece where you can just go online and pull down that particular tool, read through it, and it helps you do things like figure out how to do your business planning or figure out where you need to go for soil testing and things of that nature. Then we also have collaboration and partnerships programs such as the Regional Food Systems Partnership grants that also has a planning and design component to it. Conservation, I will hit on this one. The Racial Justice and Equity Conservation Cooperative Agreement actually just came out yesterday. So this is a really great achievement really for NRCS, and credit to Chief Cosby for getting this through. But this particular program is a new program. It's specifically geared towards historically underserved farmers and ranchers to help them implement natural resource practices that improve soil health and soil quality. It also can be used to build and strengthen local food projects, and also to just try to remove some of the barriers to access that a lot of these groups have faced historically. And there are a number of other ones. You have the EQIP program that Mr. Walker just talked about. But I also will hit this one right quick. The Forest Service has a lot of different programs to help communities as well. They have things like the Community Forest and Open Space Conservation Program. The Farm Service Agency has a targeted loan funding for minority and women farmers and ranchers that can help you in the conservation field as well. So production, again, just a lot of different programs that can be used. Just have a few highlighted here. I'll hit the youth loan program really quickly. This particular program allows individuals who are 10 years old up to 20 to actually get financing up to $5,000 to start their own business and be engaged with groups like the 4-H and the FFA and tribal youth organizations. Here are a number of other ones that you can use as well. This group also talked about refrigeration of storage and of fruits and vegetables. Again, a number of programs. I'll just hit one, high cut. The Farm Storage Facility Loan Program from FSA is a program that can help you, that can help finance existing and to build new portable and permanently affixed on-farm storage. You can do drying facilities and handling facilities and a number of other items. So that's one of the programs that you could look into. From a distribution outlet standpoint, again, I know this is definitely in Yvette's wheelhouse, so I'm not going to touch on this, but we have a number of programs that can help in that arena as well. And then as a food hub, again, plenty of different programs. Rural Development has a loan guaranteed loan program called the Business and Industry Program that it does that actually can, even though it's from the Rural Development Agency, it actually can be used in urban settings. And so, you have to kind of read through the different programs to see if it's still eligible, because just because it's from one agency or another doesn't mean that it's limited to rural audiences. And then I'll touch this one too. Research, education, and technical assistance and outreach. This is really one of our key ones. One of our more popular programs is the 2501 socially disadvantaged programs for farmers. But also one that's gaining a lot of steam right now is the National Urban Extension Leaders. And this group is really specifically designed and set up to help urban producers to understand how to improve their operation. So with that, I'll close on out. Here are some other considerations that you can think about. There are beginning and farmer rancher coordinators in each of these states. They are a very valuable resource to helping some of you that are out there that may be new and beginning farmers, helping you to line up what paperwork you're going to need in order to get into these different programs across USDA. And then also mentorship is so important too. I just put a couple of names up here of other producers in other states that have had some success in the urban areas. And, you know, our whole job, again, is trying to facilitate and making sure that we make as many connections between different groups as we can and help to share the knowledge across the board. Lamont Owen, I think you mentioned that a little bit earlier, but obviously that's a resource to you. A lot of the USDA programs are administered by providing money to pass-through entities. And so colleges and universities like Lamont Owen are able to apply for the research dollars or the research grants, and then that money can then be sub-awarded out to organizations like yours, as well as the Tennessee State Department of Agriculture. There are a lot of USDA programs that go to the state of Tennessee that then they sub-award. So with that, I will put my information into the chat box, as well as information for farmers on farmers.gov. We have a location, urban. Definitely feel free to go there. We have a sign-up sheet so that anytime opportunities come up related to urban agriculture and innovative production too, we don't just want to limit it to urban. We also are looking to get into more controlled environment agriculture, vertical houses, aeroponics, the whole gambit. Because again, the Secretary recognizes when you have 80% of your citizens that live in or very close to urban cores, it just makes sense to be able to produce some of that food close to where they are. So with that, I will say thank you, and I will open up for questions if we have time to do them here. I can wait a few minutes. I don't think I can wait the remainder of the time. I have another engagement, but I would certainly be happy to engage with folks afterwards on one-on-one conversations or what have you. Thank you.
Mr. Glover, so much for that. Next, we were talking about historically underserved institutions, and this is a little off the program. He called me when I was in Senatobia, Mississippi at the Nrcs place, and I'd like to acknowledge her too, Miss Chantel Davis. She was the one who introduced me to Mr. Fred Walker, and Chantel was very instrumental in us being here. But as I was at her office, he called me and asked who I was. Now, what you doing in my state? Kind of like that. That's how it sounded. And me being a little brazen myself, saying, and who is the so-and-so, what I wanted to say, but I didn't, okay? but I did. But found out we have a deeper relation. His wife is from my hometown. Nancy Blunt was one of the first nonprofit that I ever worked for, Our House Community Center. It was Nancy Blunt and Mary Scott. So his mother-in-law is ultra intelligent. But without any further ado, I would like Mr. Finest Dribbling. He'll give the last name from Tennessee State University. It's the Extension Service. Come up and say a word and introduce and just let us know about a couple of programs that he have available for urban agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I didn't realize I came across like that. but with that being said, I was glad to find out about this program. And Mr. Jones, you sent an email to my dean, Dr. Reddy, and I got it kind of trickled on down to me. And I'm glad to be here because I do have a new appointment as of July 1. I am the director of small farms and New Farm Academy for the state of Tennessee, Tennessee State University. So just glad to be here to see what's going on. And we do have a presence here. I found out from Reverend Foster that Joanne Waterman, who is our TSU agent here, hosts a lot of our programs for Tennessee State here. So that's very, very enlightening to know that, because I have a program I started back in 2014 called Tennessee New Farm Academy. And basically what that program is taking new and beginning farmers to introduce them to agriculture. And we talk about the gimmick from USDA, or the Rural Development Farm Service Agency, Nrcs, as well as Tennessee Department of Ag, to just give them a taste of what's out there, to whet their appetite. And then once the program ends, at the end of the 7 months, you have an idea or a network of people that you can call on when you decide what you want to do in this thing we call farming and agriculture. And I see one of our graduates here in the audience here, and been knowing Mr. Walton for a while and Brother King. And so kind of around a lot of family here. So I know quite a few people that's in the audience here, but just glad to be here. Tennessee State is a player in the game. So anything we can do at Tennessee State University, please give me a call, shoot me an email. We're here to serve the people of Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. King, you want to go back to this? Now on you, would you like for me to the next person or your call? Yeah, the next individual we have, I need somebody might tell me to get in front of the camera, okay? The next person we have is from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. If you look around, all these people are wearing these caps. He knows how to get individuals to like him. Everybody in here don't have a cap. Mr. Shelton Hightower, we got a cap for you too. You probably already got one, but we got one for you also. In the absence of the young lady who was she was saying, you having a meeting, you didn't invite me? Well, I didn't know who you were. But Miss Colleen Carey, in her absence, one of her colleagues from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture is going to speak for her. And that Tennessee Department of Agriculture, according to Reverend Foster, has been very, very involved in this project here. So without any further ado, we have the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. I need you to come right here. Cool. For the online audience. Yeah, there you go. Oh, see where you can see there. There you go.
Okay, yeah, every ball man needs a hat, so I always have to bring hats. All right, so when I received Mr. Jones's email about this, and I told Colleen that I could come, and she was planning on coming, she said, well, I've got some conflicts. You can just go from in my spot. I said, okay, that's great. What she neglected to tell me was that she's on the program. So forgive me as I don't have any handouts. I don't have any nice electronic propaganda here to throw you. But what I can tell you is I have heard directly from our commissioner's lips, Dr. Charlie Hatcher, and he's a good man. I would say that all day. And he's so many levels above me, he's not even my boss, so he doesn't impact my performance rating. But he's a good man, and he's a farmer. And I have heard from his lips many times that the development of urban agriculture is the very, very top of his priority list, that he has forwarded to the governor, and the governor reflects that. So just know that the commissioner, the number one farmer in the state, has this program at the top of his priority. Now, that said, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about finances. Everybody wants to show me the money. It's got to show me the money. I mean, we talk a lot about educational programs and opportunities. We certainly offer those, but we actually just recently developed one of our cost share programs, the TAEP, and this is for the people online. This is unfortunately just for the Tennessee folks. So the Mississippi and Arkansas folks, I guess, mute me or whatever for a few minutes, because it doesn't apply to you. But for the Tennessee folks, the Tennessee Agricultural Enterprise Fund, TAEP is the acronym. We actually just as of about a month ago or so expanded that category to include, or that program to include, a category for new farmers and urban agriculture. So the great part about that is there's some cash connected to what you're doing here and what the people online are doing. Now, I want to emphasize that this is a cost share program. Normally, it's that particular program is for what I would call inputs, infrastructure. It would pay for hay storage. It pays for high tunnels. It pays for, I don't know, finance, give me some other examples. It actually even pays for advertising in some cases. It pays for just a lot of things that are production agriculture infrastructure is what it pays for. Now, I'll emphasize that it's cost share. Number one, it's going to fund you 40 to 50% of your project. But it's a grant, not a loan. So it's not like a federal program where it's a low cost loan, low interest loan. It's free. The one negative to it is you have to finance your project ahead of time and then submit for that cost share. So that's the one negative. Now we deal with bankers all the time and communicate with bankers to say, now, since I know Finance has got a project and Finance goes into his banker and says, banker, I need X dollars. And he goes, well, okay, well, how do I need to pay you back? And then we get involved from the department side to send letters sometimes to finance opportunities for these folks. Now, and then when you finish your project, you just submit your request for payment and we send you a check. So it's a strong program. It began, and I need to throw this in here. I believe Tennessee's the only state in the union that I've heard of that has something like this. So we're highly coveted around the nation. It began about, and don't hold me to these numbers, I'm the food business, so I'm not the TAEP expert, certainly, but it began around 2007, something like that, with just a few $1 million that was awarded. This last year, I want to say we're up in the maybe $20 million range, something like that. It's thousands of Tennessee farmers benefit from this program. So I strongly encourage you to participate in that. It has a very finite application period. It's always the first week of October when your application needs to get in, and that is very strict because it has to be there or postmarked. Doesn't have to be in our facility, but it has to be at least postmarked during that period, October 1st through October 7th of 2021. So, any questions about that? We always have questions about that program.
So can Tennessee hemp farmers apply? Someone asked, can Tennessee hemp farmers apply?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. The question was, can Tennessee hemp farmers apply? And absolutely, as controversial as that is, it doesn't impact the profitability, the potential profitability of that product. Now, we do not have a category in Pick Tennessee products right now for hemp related products. So you couldn't participate in the Pick Tennessee products platform, and that's more of a marketing platform. But the answer to that is absolutely yes. Anything else coming there? Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions inside here? Okay. The other thing I wanted to throw out is we have a brand new fund. It started about 3 years ago, something like that. It's called the Agricultural Enterprise Fund. It's similar to TAEP in that it's a cost share. It only pays 25% as opposed to 50 roughly for TAEP. However, it is a grant program, not a loan. And the good part about the AEF program is that the caps on that have been much higher. I'll give you an example. We've had several forestry companies in the state that have gotten $125,000, $150,000 grants connected to this. But again, it's a cost share. So if you had a $100,000 project and you applied for this and got it, then you're going to get a check for $25,000 to go towards your project. So the difference in that and TAEP is Agricultural Enterprise Fund is more for what I would call value added thing. A good example, okay, Dr. King mentioned, or someone mentioned this facility right over here with the beautiful mural on the side, mentioned that you have, maybe you mentioned it, that you have a cooler space in there. If you went in there and said, you know, this cooler space is not big enough. We need a larger, this is just an example. We need larger cooler space to service and be an aggregator for our farmers coming in for CSA delivery or for just local delivery, whatever you need it for. That would be a perfect project for AEF. Yes, that's right. And this pavilion, if you were looking at building this, before you built this, you were looking at building it, this pavilion would be a perfect project because it's educational. Like
a new recipient of the Ag Enterprise Fund.
Oh, you are? Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great, man. I didn't know. Well, okay. I'm glad you said that. You're not limited to one time. So you have another project, apply again. So keep applying. You got projects, keep applying, keep applying. We don't have any indication that this program is going to stop. As a matter of fact, we have every indication that it's going to keep growing and growing. The good thing, if there is a good thing that's happened from COVID, is that there's a lot of money rolling out of Washington, D.C. toward us. And our governor is a strong agricultural component, and he flows as much of it to the direction of agriculture as possible. And with urban agriculture being on the top of that list, then it's on the ultimate top of that agricultural list. So I encourage you to do that again if you want to see another project. And that's expanding, like I said, every year. The good part about that project or that program is that those applications are reviewed quarterly as opposed to the TAEP. It's very strict, 1 week a year, October 1st through 7th. The Agriculture Enterprise Fund is reviewed every quarter. No, excuse me. Yes, every quarter. So we have a deadline coming up for that. Actually, September 1st is our deadline for this quarter. So if you miss getting your application in by September 1st, then wait 3 months and you'll just get an application in at the end. So I encourage anyone online, again, Tennessee only, to apply for this. Yes, sir.
On the production side, you said that was a cost share also, so if it was dealing with storage facilities, but I'm very specific on conservation. So it was a conservation program, said it was livestock, and you had cross fencing, but did not have the permanent, they didn't finance the permanent fencing. So that cost share portion, they could go in for the permanent fencing.
Absolutely.
Through the Department of Agriculture, get the permanent fencing done and cross fencing through NRCS. So we do a little integrated type of conservation.
Absolutely. That would be more of a project for TAEP funding.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to cost share at a much higher rate. But we do things like irrigation systems. We do liquid and solid waste systems. We actually do the water treatment systems. So a position where if you needed potable water for something and you didn't have it on your farm, but you had need to put in a UV system or whatever, then we provide that. So it's cost share, but that would be more with TAEP, not AEF. Yeah.
Right.
The Agriculture Enterprise Fund is always going to be more for value added, further process.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing reference to TAEP.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Dr. King. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, okay. Well, I can go on more, but I know our time is a little bit tight. So, yes, sir.
Tennessee
Could you come up and ask the question in the microphone when the audience here?
I don't know. Real estate trends.
Yeah, it's another one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you know anything about it, you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I was just asking a question about the Tennessee Art Fund, and that's a fund through Tennessee Department of Agriculture that's administered through our conservation districts, through our local NRCS offices, and we get so many dollars per year that comes from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, and we will. Again, this is for Tennessee. I'm not sure if Mississippi and Arkansas has this, but we call it state funded. And it comes from the Tennessee wheel tax, real estate tax is where this funding comes from. And we get that, the sign up period is early July, it's year round, but we get new funding in July 1. And we have to spend that money by June 30th. And it pays anywhere from 75% to 80% of the actual cost, but we're in the process of changing this as I speak. They're changing it to be able to it's going to pay more of a payment schedule like the NRCS pays. So it used to be where it paid 75 to 85% of the actual cost. You do project, you turn your receipts in, and then we have a regional administrator that comes down and signs off on it. So just want to mention that we do have that available, and I failed to mention that in my presentation, that we do have a state cost share that we can utilize as well.
Just a little heads up for everyone who has a question, would you please use this extra microphone, because we have about last count we had 25 people online. And if you don't use the microphone, they can't hear your question.
Some old friends back there. Glad y'all made it. Good to see you. We'll talk about some fine Tennessee farmers right there, brother. That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay. That's about all I had to say. I just wanted to talk about the financial side of it.
He got a question for you.
I wanted to ask Fred with reference to what he just mentioned about the ponds and what are the sizes and limitations. What are size limitations? What the basic
Funding.
yeah, for the project?
Well, it doesn't have, we limited by funding. So the project can be, it's mostly BMPs. I'm sorry, let me get up. Okay, basically, it doesn't have, according to the state, it doesn't have a size limit. But some of the districts, conservation districts, they will set a limit because remember, we only get so much money for the, like Shelby County Soil Conservation District, we only get so many dollars per year. So sometimes they will set a $5,000 limit or a $10,000 limit per applicant. But the project, if you do a project that's say $20,000 and the district has it set for $5,000 cap, you might be better off to apply through a federal program where we can move those dollars up. So we try to use that program to be able to use it for people that can fit within that realm.
Would Nrcs come out do some preliminaries so that a person can get an insight as to whether or not they would be compliant within those dollar framework?
Yes, sir. The question was, would Nrcs come out to work with the producer to make sure they can stay within that? Yes, sir. Absolutely. We will. That's part of what we do. Conservation technical assistance.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Fred.
I'm assuming, Mr. Walker, on that, you said that's a state program that you could use, those are state funds, and you could use those state funds to match the federal funds. That's a mic.
Yes, sir. We can use it to match up to 90%. We can't cost share over 90% with matching funds. So if you're in a equip program, right, we call it piggyback. We could piggyback that cost share up to 90% total cost.
Right. My biggest concern is we worked through this process, in particular back with Reverend Foster and the Farm Network, so we know how these resources, and I think we had some pre-meeting about this today, how we can do this whole integrated process of both planning, identifying the resources, and then working with the farmers urban farmers in particular, on a referral basis, or direct it back to them where we have both the state funding and the federal monies on the cost from the cost share perspective. And that's going to be very, and particularly on both on the conservation side, as we look at urban farms and moving that forward as an initiative, and the conservation practices for those farms, that's going to be very, very crucial. So EQIP is going to be very crucial, Mr. Shelton, in that, and he has some very strong plans, on that side, and a network of what we consider as being potential producers. Thank you, Mr. Walker. I just want to make sure we had clarity on that. We're going to move now to our, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Real quick, I know we're time on time, but on the TAEP program, that application is pretty long. So if you're interested in getting involved in that, start that now, especially if you're looking at October 1st through 7th. It's something that you really need to provide as much information as possible, as opposed to the AEF application, not quite as detailed, right, but the TAEP is extremely detailed as far as quotes, as far as a narrative, just as clear a picture as you can paint of your project and how it will benefit your production.
Right.
As clear as you can make it. So.
Okay. So Sheldon, we're trying to connect the dots here now on all the particular those who are online. You know, we have Tennessee State University here with us. We'll also work directly back with that process. One of our main objectives here is one, to expand the partnership base and the network. You know, extension service, the partnership programs on that, how that works, how we can benefit more from in particular our underserved producers in the area, underserved farmers in the state of Tennessee, particularly this particular area of Tennessee, and those potential producers, and those who become beginning urban farmers as well. So connecting the resources, what those resources are, how to access those resources, and facilitating that process forward. Tennessee State University, what we do, again, expansion partnership basis, Reverend Foster, and of course, Nrcs office, which is the key role player, you know, on all of this and the outreach work that they do. So, Mr. Walker, we got our work cut out for us. Okay, from here. We're going to move ahead to workshop 2. And this is dealing with micro-urban farming, again, continuation of local food supply opportunities for beginning farmers. First on the agenda, we have Ms. Yvette Garcia with AMS Ag Marketing Services out of Washington, D.C. Ms. Garcia, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So let me get started. Share my screen. All right, so like you said, my name is Yvette Garcia. Thank you all for having me here today. I work with the Agricultural Marketing Service at the USDA, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about resources and programs that we have for local and regional food systems. So just a brief overview, the Agricultural Marketing Service provides opportunities and administers programs for marketing abroad and domestically. The Transportation and Marketing Program specifically focuses on direct-to-consumer marketing, and it does so through its local food research and development division, as well as the grants division. And these are just two examples of legislation that gives AMS the authority to do what it does. So the Transportation and Marketing Division serves in 3 roles, the first of which is convener. As Leslie mentioned before, there are so many resources at the USDA that serve and support local and regional food systems.
Ms. Garcia,
Yes.
excuse me for a second.
Yes.
We're unable to see your screen. You didn't share your screen. We just have your name up here.
Oh, so sorry about that. Let's try this again.
No,
All right, can you see it now?
nothing. There it comes. There you go. Speak into the mic a little more too, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. All right, can you see my presentation now? Can you hear me a bit better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, happy to hear it. So the role that we play, the number 1 role is as convener. As Leslie mentioned, there are so many different offices that work with local and regional food and provide programs that can support it. And what we do is we wrangle everybody together, make them talk and coordinate to make sure that all of our programs are mutually benefiting communities like yourself, which are trying to support local food systems. Leslie briefly showed this document before, but this document lists out every single program in the USDA, not just at AMS, not just at Nrcs, but USDA-wide that can be leveraged to support local and regional food systems. It is divided by supply chain, where it is in the supply chain. So stakeholders can go and find an opportunity, be it a loan, a grant, that works best for them. I can link this document in the chat as well for anyone who would like to go, and you can click any of these, programs, and it'll take you to more information. Another role that we serve as is funder through our grants division, and we have many grants that we administer, but I'm just going to focus on 3 here today that focus on local food. So the first one that I'm going to discuss is the Farmers Market Promotion Program. And don't let the name deceive you. It's not just for farmers markets. You can use this for any project that focuses on direct producer to consumer marketing. So that can be leveraged for urban farms, that can be leveraged for a farmers market, be leveraged for CSAs. There's many opportunities here. There are two different types: capacity building or community development, training, and technical assistance. And here we have an example of a community that leveraged this grant for an urban agriculture project. This was the Growing Experience in Los Angeles, which is an urban farm located on a housing development managed by the Los Angeles Housing Authority. And they used this grant to create a CSA program with the existing urban farm and to recruit small farmers in the area to create a multi-farm CSA model. They branded and they created marketing materials and they implemented the CSA at the end of their grant project. Another grant program that we have for local food is the Local Food Promotion Program. The difference between this program and the Farmers Market Promotion Program is that this focuses on indirect producer to consumer. So focuses on intermediaries and intermediary project activities. There are two different types, again, planning and implementation. And this is an example of a grantee here in Washington, D.C. that used a local food promotion program grant for urban agriculture as well. They wanted to enhance the market opportunities for local and urban farms in the area, and they wanted to do so. And this grant is still active. So they're currently doing so by increasing aggregation, processing, and distribution infrastructure in the area. So as you can see, this focuses more on an intermediary component, and this is why this grant was compatible for the Local Food Promotion Program. Finally, the last grant that I am going to discuss today is the Regional Food System Partnership Program grant. This one is a little different. It's not focused so much on a project and a project plan and an idea to implement, but rather it's focused on partnerships, specifically partnerships between public and private entities. So this grant helps groups who just need that extra push to work together to plan a better local food system. There are two different types: planning and design, implementation and expansion. And this is an example that happened out in Georgia. And in Georgia, the Atlanta Regional Commission, as well as the Foodwell Alliance, partnered with the city of East Point, Georgia, to start a planning process of how cities can prioritize urban agriculture in the Atlanta metro area. With this grant, they completed a 6-month planning process and they drafted an urban agriculture plan. And they will be piloting this plan through the grant as well in East Point, Georgia, with a goal of expanding to 52 other cities. So the Regional Food System Partnerships Program grant is great for communities who have a lot of interested players and they just need that extra push to work together. And so finally, the final role that the Transportation and Marketing Division plays at USDA AMS is technical assistance and research. We have lots of resources out there. We conduct research all the time, but I'm just going to highlight a few key resources that might be of interest to you all. First, we did this study on the promise of urban agriculture in conjunction with the Cornell Small Farms Program, where we studied 14 commercial scale urban farms to understand what are the challenges getting an urban farm to be profitable and commercial, as well as what are the factors for success. This entire report can be found online for free, as well as a quick one-pager if you just want an overview. And we are currently working on a series of training modules that will be housed online so that people who are planners, producers, or anyone in a nonprofit space or someone who just wants to learn more can learn about what are the factors for success and the challenges for commercial scale urban farms. Another technical assistance service that we provide is facility design. We have 2 architects on our staff who provide free design services. All you have to do is go onto our website, shoot them an email, tell them what you need, and they will reach out to you. They can help with things like site selection, designing your space, and they can help put you in contact with a local design professional if need be. And this is a great resource that I highly recommend if you need some sort of architectural design service. And finally, we have our local food directories, which are online. Here you can find out where farmers markets, CSAs, food hubs are in the entire country. And while this is a great resource for consumers to find out what is available near them, it's also great for your own market research, just to know what's in the area, who you should be connecting with. So this is on our website, and I can link that in the chat. But again, my name is Yvette Garcia, and I will put my email in the chat. Thank you for having me here today. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them now or whenever is best. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we was muted. If there was a question, how do you list your farm in the directory?
There on our website, there is a button that you can click to add your farmer's market, your CSA, your food hub, whatever it is, and add them to the directory.
Okay, are there any more questions? Thank you so much, Ms. Garcia. Would you remain online with us until the final presentation?
Yes, I will be online for a while.
Yeah, we have one gentleman, the chief has a question for you.
Greetings, everyone. I have a question about the distribution to these pantries. And I understand that a lot of the big distribution warehouses were given a lot of money from this AMS department, USDA. And we have been looked over. And we have about 12 active farmers that would love to be able to supply some of those food pantries in distribution, since we do have one or two delivery trucks, refrigerated trucks. But Palazola got, I think on 4 rounds, they got $7 million. First round, they got 2.9 million. And on the 4th round, they got $11 million. And we want to know how we can get information so we can participate in that wonderful program.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Yeah, my office is not directly related to that. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. But we have heard many complaints across the board that these contracts and this distribution was not done fairly or equitably. And we are open, we have an open comment period on this, so you can get your feedback and I can link you to that. You send me an email. We are also currently going to be doing a research project to understand what are the barriers to getting USDA resources more equitably accessed by all, not just the big guys and the big players. And so that is something that is on our minds. And I wish I had a solution for you right now, but we are listening and this administration does want change. But please shoot me an email to discuss about that distribution issue.
I want to say also this particular meeting it's been recorded and we'll be posting it to our website also. So those who want to go back and to just refresh themselves on some of the information prior to the presentation. I know this is a lot to take in. I know Mr. Walker said you're taking a lot in at one time. And as say a first meeting or one of these meetings, we'll be having a series of meetings. It is tri-state. We were hosted in Tennessee. This go around, of course, Arkansas and Mississippi. And the State Department of Agriculture gave a reference to, well, I can only speak for Tennessee, and we understand that. And hopefully there can be possibly even some replication of what is occurring in Tennessee. And it could be something that can be replicated maybe in Arkansas or even in Mississippi, as well. So that it becomes a twofold learning process, sometimes not only just, for Tennessee from those who are the recipients in Tennessee and how the resources are offered, but how such programs can be replicated in other states, particularly when you look at this region from a regional perspective. I want to give reference also, she gave and this is with Ms. Garcia on the regional marketing, what ag marketing services have. I'm hoping that we'll be able to talk about, do some things from that perspective, looking at the regional, multi-state regional initiative. I know Reverend Trust, we talked about that on this whole network of food supply. And I'm just trying to tag this right now. Adam's going to be the one doing the follow-up. But I do want to sort of tag this right now that we can come back. Mr. Walker, State Department of Agriculture, and Tennessee State University with Reverend Foster after this with a separate type of Zoom roundtable meeting. If y'all will agree to do that, then Albert will follow back up with you and how we sort of pull this together from this partnership expansion network and use of the resources, because there is a lot, Mr. Walker, I agree, there's it's a lot. So if we can do that, and if everyone agrees with that, then we'll do the follow-up. Mr. Foster back with the Zoom meet, just sort of a meeting with the partnership, with the organization, and map the plans, where the resources are, and how we can expand this more and trying to get the delivery out of that. So that's just sort of I just want to follow up and say that, Albert and you guys. Mr. Shelton, you see who's all doing all the work, right? I like to be clear. I want to give credit where it's due. So I give credit where I do. I can give some more assignments in the process. And I don't want to forget either also, Michael Tucker, this is our technical person here. Mr. Tucker is a farm advisor, but when we start talking about the business plan, the conservation application process, Reverend Foster, this is the tech guy on that. Farm business plan, microloan program, all that on this, him and Albert, under the farm program area. So now that I've given those assignments, I will move here with the lesson plan. We are now into, again, continuing in the workshop 2 area. We have small business administration as small business on. Mr. Terrell. He's not in. Okay, we're gonna move on. Look like SB is on. Let me just get one quick summary part. Those of you who have benefited from the PPP program, there's a lot of information on the website. If you have not gone in and reported back out on the PPP application process to get those loans forgiven, I would suggest that all parties and all the recipients of the PPP program take advantage of those webinars that have been online and deal with that process and you can do it online. Go through to get those PPP loans forgiven. Because time will run out. People, it's not going to be there forever, and there are certain requirements to get the loans forgiven. And there are a lot of other resources the SBA offers, and they're continuing to offer through and during this pandemic time period with the coronavirus. Again, they have a website. They have ongoing webinars and information. Some of the information we post back to our website and network as well, and put it back in our newsletter. We have the new and beginning farmers. I'm just going to give, I'm going to refer back, Ron Foster, you know, because we have all these partners here. I'm telling you, we got all, I said, you're going to have all the partners at the table, which you got the state here, which you got Tennessee State University here, which Tennessee State, I think, has a new and beginning farmers program. So the new and beginning farmers program is something on the technical assistance side, on the urban farm side, startup, State Department of Agriculture, you know, what they're doing in that arena. So as we continue to map and to plan and to work through the process on, and I will go back and say this first thing we have to do, and all those individuals who want to become a part of the beginning urban farm program, you know, through the organization, they must get a farm number for those particular pieces of property. You have to get the farm number first. First thing, get the farm number, and of course, then you can apply, make the application process for conservation program services, as well as farm service agency. You're talking about a micro loan for setting up and doing some of the operation. I really like this state program. They're just talking about some money that's the, man, do you know how that totally offsets and create opportunities for a beginning farmer? So the beginning farmer program with the micro loan program with FSA, and then the state program, you're talking about, you could cut a lot of your expenses by 50%. You said up to 50%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so up to 50%. So you're reducing costs by 50% as a part of TSU, the beginning urban farmers program. And every state does not have that, but I think that's a fantastic program, and we have a major opportunity there. Yes, sir, in the back, he has a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we need the mic.
As it pertains to the urban farmer program and farm service agency, to the extent that TSU and others may offer various workshops and classes that may help the beginning farmer, is there a listing so that those who are interested might be capable of applying or making time available so that they can attend these various workshops and classes, so they may have that placed on their application when they apply to either the farm service agency or someone else to find funding?
You know, that is very key, because they do ask a beginning farmer what type of other experience. Well, he wants to know if there is if there's a website or where they can apply to participate on the beginning farmers program. I know TSU has that whole department work with beginning farmers on the technical assistance side and on the outreach side, on the beginning farmers program and on the 2501. And yes, you do post them. We will have these type of events ongoing where we talk about both the beginning farmers program, farm service agency, access to the resources, partnership, the advantage form of partnership resources that actually creates a much higher profitability level for those who may be beginning farmers. But we post ours to our website. I think we may have roughly 3 months, and you don't have to, these are supposed to be like Arkansas events, but you can be anywhere and participate and be a part of them. Our regional initiative and what we're doing now, we'll have others be posted as well that covers Arkansas, Eastern Arkansas, then of course Tennessee and Mississippi. Those will be posted as well, both the recording after the fact as well as the meeting of the pre-process prior to the meeting. So Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation will have ours posted ongoing, so people can register for and participate in those events. On the beginning farmer side, so beginning farmers being one, it's a beginning farmers program. And basically the beginning farmers access to the resources, any individual that has been in producing for less than 10 years is still classified as a beginning farmers. You know, if you're a beginning farmer, then that's an added point for if you're applying for the conservation program, right? So if you're an underserved beginning farmer and you're applying for conservation resources, or you're applying for a micro loan or a regular direct loan with farm service agency, then you apply that's a point system. Then you apply as a beginning farmer, you apply as a minority individual, there's added points, for you in the program, and it puts you into a category, as far as priority for service. Priority for servicing, getting those resources as a beginning farmer. That's one of the added benefits of it when you're still in that category as a beginning farmer. Other areas of training, not just what we do in bringing the organizations in Nrcs on conservation program, farm service agency, if it's that direct loan program, the micro loan program for beginning farmers. On the urban side of it, in most cases, we look at the micro loan with farm service agency as being the best fit for an urban beginning farm. That's up to $50,000. So up to $50,000 on a micro urban farm loan program, business loan program, and then we try to connect the dots, such as the state Department of Agriculture program that they have. The cost share portion of that, conservation practices. So conservation is what we call an integrated type of business farm, beginning farmers plan, conservation practices that should be employed that will, again, provide for higher yield with certain soil nutrient practices. It may be CSP on conservation stewardship practices. Again, a practice being applied. So that's important for a beginning farmer to know that, to increase their level of success, their chances of being successful in their overall farming operation. So yes, we do that ongoing. Tennessee State University does it ongoing as part of that education program for beginning farmers. And we will continue to do that, and we'll continue to post ours on our website. We'll publish certain articles to our newsletter as well regarding beginning farmers program and resources for beginning farmers. But that's definitely ongoing. And you can always contact us. Our phone number is 870-734-1140. That's for Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation, Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation. Anytime, and we do an intake from there. And based on our intake process, as a beginning farmer, we work with those individuals as a beginning farmer that as they go into our database. So we go into our database from our farm intake, beginning farmer, and look at the resource availability for those individuals before them, what's most beneficial for them. We don't have but that's it for the new and beginning farmer. I'm going to end it pretty much on this and sort of a summary of what all we've talked about here today. And I think based on what you've heard, you would agree that when we say one USDA, that it is one USDA that has so many moving components. And those moving components are both in how resources are presently being applied, but there are also many, many moving components on how opportunities exist. And it's important that we know how to take advantage of those opportunities and how to access those resources. A lot has been said and done, but with this team that's agreed today, and we got witnesses in this shelter, we got witnesses. We got with this team that has come together that we're gonna do this follow-up meeting and partnership that's gonna connect the dots with the state, Tennessee State University partnership, Natural Resource Conservation Services, and Reverend Foster and Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation, what we do in mapping this plan, knowing what's here, and those other stuff. Now, this meeting from a round table will probably lead into another meeting that will be your specific network of producers that we know we're going to be working with. But we need to have our plan and how that plan will be implemented with all those producers, so everybody's on the same page. We'll not look at resources, state resources, federal resources, and what the process is going to be. It's what I call a sort of an action plan, and we go from there. Last point, let's not forget technology. We definitely want to include technology. We want to include drones in that, how we're using drones in this whole process as far as production agriculture stuff is concerned. Our regional farm producers, how do you use drones if it's in ranching operation, if it's dealing with management, dealing with pesticides, particularly on the pesticide perspective, scouting fields, understanding of where your highest concentration is. And you can use, and we are doing a drone initiative on that now. Of course, there's certain requirements to be in an urban area whenever you're flying those. I know everybody know that and having a permit and all. And you have to have licensed operators. We have licensed. Michael is a licensed operator. He's actually a licensed pilot. Can you believe that? He's a licensed pilot. Albert is too. These guys are licensed to operate those things. So, Reverend Foster, I said that don't go buy a drone and say we're gonna fly a drone. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there is a process that you go through to get individual license one and understand how drones can be used with certain practices from a technology perspective and dealing with monitoring these small operations, even small operation, Reverend Foster, small scale urban farming operation, how you can use drones and that, and particularly what we call our micro farms, our small micro farms out in rural areas. We will be following back up with ag marketing services. Gentlemen, I hope you all have ag marketing services as a key one, because what I heard her mention was a regional, she said a regional, Ms. Garcia, you still on?
Yes, I'm here. Regional Food Systems Partnership Program.
The regional partnership?
Regional Food Systems Partnership Program.
Regional Food System Partnership. Mr. Walker, Albert, Regional Food System Partnership. Now, we're wanting to try to connect that to what we call our micro small farmers over in eastern Arkansas and out bordering contiguous in Mississippi, and also the other contiguous counties here with Shelby County, these smaller farmers raising vegetables from that regional partnership piece. And we'll be looking for ag marketing services support on that, State Department of Agriculture. So I know you all can get the support, on that. So that regional type of initiative, and that of course feeds back into building the production supply for the expanded market opportunities that Reverend Foster have been working on and still working on here. We're in one of the number one in the nation. Am I right, Reverend Foster? Food? Huh?
We've been up and down the top 10.
Okay, we're in the top 10, regional top 10 food deserts in the country. Top 10 food deserts in the country is right in this area where we're located now. Food desert. So, and there are opportunities for urban agriculture. You see the malls, see the demonstration, and local food supply. That's what we're going to be pushing toward conservation practice and employing those in the process and all of our partnerships accordingly. If there are no other questions, again, I'm not going to talk about air property that much, except I will say this. 1910, African Americans own roughly some 15 million acres of land in this country. That has declined to less than 4 million acres. Now, our 4 million acres or less, Black land ownership. 30%, roughly 30% of that land loss can be attributed to air property. That's a lot. When you say 30% of that decline in land ownership by the African American community can be attributed to air property. And there are many other factors that go with that as relates to the system and laws, that those laws exist. Arkansas has passed a new law, Unified Air Property Act, which makes it less challenging to retain air property when the courts of petition. So you are able to retain property in the process, and there's more fairness in the process now through the Unified Air Property Act. Again, that's in Arkansas. I don't think Tennessee has passed it, has it? I don't think it's passed in Tennessee yet. But again, the best thing to do to avoid it as an issue and as a challenge, make a will. Have a will. All families should have a will. My family, my father and mother, they had a will, a trust, establish a trust for our family farm. I'm the administrator of that trust, family trust now. And we still maintain the land that's been in our family for years, along with our homestead house that's used as a family guest house. So when everybody come home, they have to stay with me. They can stay at the family. I keep my own space. No, I love my family. I'm just, if they want to stay with me, they stay with me. I turn my whole place over to them. But again, it's always, it is the best getaway for your family members to come back to when they want to look at the heritage. As my sister now, they were just here recently, they said you can all just bring back so much memory and to meditate and to be out in this area and so quiet, and so that's good for me, rewarding for me in being the administrator of our estate. But our property, again, is a challenge. It's a barrier. Now, the reason I want to mention that too, and Reverend Foster, y'all deal with this process, and I think y'all have a good model going because you have dealt with acquisition already. A lot of this property surrounding the area, lots and that which can become beginning farmers. Air property is a challenge. It can also be a barrier to access resources. So I just want to mention that to you. When I say a barrier, individuals, if they have 2 or 3 lots and it's air property land, and so, well, anybody been taking care of us, we want to become an urban farmer and sign up for it. You're going to have control and ownership, not ownership, but control of that property, either serving as being the administrator, got all of those heirs. There may be 5 other sisters and brothers involved, but if it is our property and they want to become a beginning urban farmer on that air property land, they're going to have to be able to show that they have, am I right, Mr. Shelton? On that to get the resource, when you get to even get a farm number, you have to show that for farm service agency that you must have control of that property either as an owner or as an administrator by way of a lease or contract agreement with all the heirs agreeing for you to operate it. So it'll be just as the same for urban farming as is for big production agriculture, for agriculture in general, and farm land, and where farm numbers involved, you got to have the control and ownership of that property. So, but we'll talk about that further. Air property, it's a challenge, it can be challenged in our local communities, our underserved areas, but we're going to work through that process. If there are no other questions, any comments, closing remarks, Mr. Shelton? We're gonna let Mr. Shelton, he's gonna close us out here.
Hey, thank you, Dr. King. And then I just want to thank all the presenters. It was a lot of great information. And I think Dr. King then gave all us a call to action to get to work there finally. So, with no further delay, I think this was, I appreciate Mr. Marlon Foster for his hosting this event here, Knowledge Quest, and done a lot of great work here. And I think this is a model for other folks to really take a look at and try to expand upon what you have done here. So really appreciate the work that's done here. Appreciate all the attendees, all the presenters, and appreciate the partnership. Partnership's all about relationship, and I look forward to working with you all and making sure this happens. Instead of talking about it, let's be about it, and let's get the urban ag going on in Tennessee. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. That is a wrap. That's a wrap.
Right,
that's a wrap, man. Steve.